Bernie talks about it. Buildings that stop changing have died and just start to deteriorate. So it's kind of a cool, exciting time to think about where we are with regard to Calvary's buildings, how they serve what we're here to do. Charles is going to walk us through what's taken place over a long time.
Well, again, I'm the oldest one on the committee, so you're getting This was founded as a real estate deal in 1819. And so it had a strategic location which led to what the city has become. We're high and low. We don't not so subject to flooding. We are close to a lot of agricultural areas, and the closest cities are pretty far away. I mean, St. Louis, New Orleans, Atlanta, Nashville. So as the city grew, agricultural areas in the deltas of both the city and Arkansas were cleared. The forests were cleared. So lumber became a big business in Memphis. And after that, cotton, which was planted on those areas that were cleared, became a big business in Memphis. Mules were sold here. That's the biggest mule trade in the country. People were sold here for the agricultural areas. All that has led to the changes in the city as well as into Calvary's buildings. If we fast forward about 13 years into the growth of the city, that's when Calvary was founded. And just think back what things looked like in 1832 and what they didn't have that we had. I mean, electricity, railroads, airplanes, the internet, microphones, all that. And so the changes that the church has gone through are based on all kinds of changes around us. They're not all generated just by us. And you think society has changed very much, both through laws and also through evolution in people's thought. The liturgies have changed somewhat over the years, which has affected how we use the original space that was built in 1842. All sorts of other changes have caused the changes that we have gone through. And when I started putting this together, it became obvious to me that we changed a lot more than I thought we had. So I'm going to do a quick run through of what's happened since the first building. There were a couple of buildings that we used prior to this location. One of them was a log house in Court Square where we met. There was a 2-story building that the church built on 2nd Street, across the street, about a block or two north, where the downstairs was the worship space, and the rector lived upstairs with his family. And it was a he. It was a he for a long time. That's another change. So we'll just quickly go through these. First building, 1 room. That building was built in 1842-ish. I will say right now, a lot of these dates are approximate because our source material is a book that is purported to be the history of Calvary Church, but there's a lot of fiction and a lot of silence in there with submissions. So that building started at the back of the church space and went as far as the 3 arches that are in the chancel. The description of it was that the pulpit and lectern were hung on the east wall and looked very much like pockets on a paper. That's from the great book. Not the good book, the great. And so that was all we had. I mean, there was not a Sunday school, there was not a nursery, there were all the things that we have now that were considered essential were not at that time. People arrived by carriage or buggy at the front door on 2nd Street. Obviously, we don't do that anymore. And so even though that's our main entrance, it's not our main entrance. We had no parking lots at that time. We didn't need them. Because you were dropped off and they would then come back and pick you up. So the accounts of the building say that it originally seated 600 people. I'm not sure how that worked. I don't think they had side aisles. And people were thinner then because they walked a lot. But I've read 2 accounts. One of them said the population was just under 2,000. Another one said it was 6,000. Either way, I think that exceeds even Joel Osteen's when he bought the arena in Houston to found his church. I mean, to think that you would build a building for 10% of the population in Memphis at the time is just beyond comprehension. But anyway, that's what's it. And about 20 years later, the bell tower was added. Part of that was peer pressure. You know, you had the Presbyterians with the big steeple on top of what's there now. You had the Methodists with the big steeple. And so we had a bell, so we built a bell. After that, and this is where it gets kind of interesting, there was a lot behind this, which may or may not have been the slave market. But it was right back there in that area. The chancel was added, they bought another lot and added that. And if you can see on there, the sacristy was where the organ, half of it is on the north side. On the south side was the organ. And there was a hallway between them behind the altar. The reredos, which is on our back wall, sat on the altar. And that's important for later. When the liturgy changed, where the priest celebrated at the altar facing the congregation, Calvary had a freestanding altar because that hall was moved. But the stone altar has steel posts under it holding it up. It wasn't practical to move it back, so it just became a freestanding altar and worked with the liturgy that started in the mid-70s, 1970. So that was everything that's back of the 3 arches that are in the chancel area. Okay, around 1900, things started to change. The parish house, where the Great Hall is, was built at the turn of the century. And that building housed the church offices, which is what's now the Montgomery Board, with 3 people in there, and the rector's office and secretary above it. And that was the staff, except for Dr. Studeman's, whose office was further back in the building. And, you know, we have a much bigger staff than that. We have much bigger ministries than that now. In that building, also the basement, was the Newsboys Club. At that time, newspapers were sold on the street corners all over downtown. They would come to Calvary, get their papers, and go to their spots. And Calvary became a place where they could come to get warm or whatever. Also, outreach became a part of the ministries. It's hard to do outreach if you have one room. So other things started happening then. There was a clinic, there were all sorts of other things. One of the clinics even became the Ear, Nose, and Throat Hospital, which has been absorbed into a bigger hospital. So also at that time, right after that, and during the Depression, part of the roof blew off in a storm, and the water ruined the organ. And so the organ was replaced in, I think, 1835. And it is over in that corner. The sacristy still was where it was before. Just as a for instance, the services totally started changing from about that point on. Before that, the communion rail was between, it only was as wide as the bell arch. But if you only have communion once a month, you don't need a communion rail that goes all the way across. That was changed in the next iteration. All of that area was remodeled in the 1950s. That's when the furniture was changed to the blonde wood, which was popular at that time. It's finally mellowed and we put some more stuff on it. They split the organ into two parts and moved it back on the organ console side and moved the sacristy to another place in the building. And that's when they took the hall out behind the altar and you got the freestanding altar. Well, that was used, there was a bench made where you could put poinsettias or lilies, depending on the season, behind the altar and have a bigger show, but not for celebrating facing the congregation. Well, I keep in the wrong way. All right, so also Sunday school classes started in the parish house. There was a movement in the church as a whole to go to Sunday schools as well as worship. And so that's one of the reasons for that. The Great Hall, interestingly enough, there used to be a picture around here of it prior to the 1950s. It was one of the ugliest rooms in Christendom. It had, the floor was green and white, asphalt tile. The walls had radiators hanging on them, and it was used as a gymnasium, as well as a classroom. So in the 1950s, as part of the renovation of the chancel in the narthex and the Great Hall, all of that went English on us. And had a lot of charm, but it was changed. Also, at that time, a lot of things happened in the 1950s. The screens in the back, which we just removed, were put in at that time. The bride's walk was built. I guess before that, they went out the front doors and came back in the main doors. If it wasn't raining, I don't know what they did for weddings or funerals or even Sunday services. There was a building built on top of the kitchen, which at one point was a nursery, and then it became the sacristy. Air conditioning was added. That was an early installation of air conditioning. And that's also, another slide I'll show you, there was some work done on this level. That's when the mural room became the mural room. I think it was a big space before, but the mural was put in, and that room was renovated. A lot of work was done on the kitchen at that time, too. I didn't mention it, but back in the middle of the 1800s, the flat ceiling in the worship space was removed because it started sagging, and the building started kind of spreading a bit. And so they removed the flat ceiling, put the trusses in, put the tie rods in to keep it from spreading further. So as you can see, that one room that we had that was built in the 1840s is not at all like it was at that time. Now, vaulted ceiling, chancel, all of that. So we've really changed more than you think over the years. And part of it is because of technology, of progress, and part of it just because our needs changed. And so I think going back to the thing that Scott had posted there, we have continued to change and are obviously in the midst of that right now because of our needs as well as our needs to the city around us. In the mid to late 70s, the light well, which had been there because before air conditioning you had to have a light well to get air circulation, the light well was changed to the columbarium courtyard. The library was added, the front parlor was added. The stair that's on the other side of this, well, it's actually right, you can see the top of it right there. The stair and the elevator were added. And where this building sits was a big orchestra, and that became the main entrance. Prior to that, we came in through the alley door to the kitchen, driving the health department crazy, because all of us were coming and going through that, and going up a little bitty stair that was on the other side of the concrete block wall that was about 30 inches wide, and it had 4 turns. And I think maybe there was a dumbwaiter at one point. And if you pass somebody on the stair, you hold your breath. Yeah. So I don't know how we lasted for 130 years with that stair. It didn't meet any codes, but there weren't codes when it was built. Anyway, that was all done at that time, plus the sacristy and vesting rooms were added or renovated. There was a light well between where, if some older, you remember Dr. Stidham's office was kind of where the women's and men's restrooms were. And there was a light well there to separate it from that building that was built on top of the kitchen. That was filled in, and the sacristy was expanded, and the vesting rooms were moved to there. So all of that was part of the mid-70s. Okay. Then sometime later than that, and I don't have a date on this, is when the Bethlehem Chapel was built, the classrooms across from us, and the room at the end, which a lot of us know as the AA room. I don't think it's used that way anymore, but that was the crib nursery. And with horror of all horrors, at the far end of it were cages stacked on top of each other that held babies. It was barbaric looking. Yes, they were cages. They've been removed. again, to show how we evolve, that whole area is outreach now. So, in this renovation, there will be a multi-use room that will double as a chapel over in that corner of this building. And it opens onto this space. So that, the windows that are in there, which are really fine, designed by Dorothy Sturm, who taught at the College of Art, those will be moved. There will be 3 of them backlit in the chapel. The 3 that are in the Montgomery foyer will be put just outside of this room and backlit and be part of the entrance into this room. And it will be, some of those will be closed because some of them will be just glass. So that's, from this point forward, that's no longer a chapel. It hasn't been for 20 years or so anyway, but it's going to be official. The gospel rooms and the mural room was redone in the 1950s. The gospel rooms were added when the courtyard was built later. The kitchen was renovated in the 1950s also. So then this building was built. And this building kind of changed even while it was under construction, because that was to be the nursery and preschool classrooms, and that became Calvary Place. And some of it was double use and some of it was single use. And then all the other classrooms were upper level. I won't go into how it's all going to be used now, but that's kind of the history of how we got to where we are. And, I'm almost surprised, given the changes around us, that we haven't changed more than we have, but, we're kind of slow to get to doing things. But we do embrace change a lot more than we think we do. I'll return.
You've heard me a bunch of times, guys. I've like 10 forums that we've had. Anyway, preaching to the choir almost among all of you here right now. At one of our early planning meetings, Harriet said, but what's going to happen to the Calvary patina? We don't want just big white, solid concrete walls. Well, we got patina coming to us right now. On the other side of this wall is the mural, just to put you where you are. And this wall, in about 6 months, well, no, finished in 6 months, but later on this week, there will be 4 openings into the mural room, going right through the mural. The light that we're sitting under right now, all this natural light, will be flooding that room, presently known as the mural room. Lots of natural light in there, lots of multi-purpose uses for that space, as well as waffle shop and dining and everything else. And the murals, the beloved murals. You probably know Scott, with his handy saw, cut out about 5 big sections. Those will be framed and hanging on the back of the gospel rooms. So we won't have to change our name of that room too very much, I hope. That sets you where you are. How often have you even been in this room, other than the past 6 months when we used it for church, Sunday evening, and some other functions? It was Calvary Place, it was the playroom for many years. That door was closed off most of the time during church service. So it's a great space, right? It's got great natural light. It becomes the hub, just like we're using right now. It's the center spoke for all the changes that we're making in here. You come through that door, formerly known as the alley door, if you're parking over on that side. Walk into this space. About where Mimsy's standing right now will be a big staircase, wide open. Wood treads, let's say wood, I'm talking about patina now again. Wood treads that take you up to the 2nd floor, right where the chain link is at this point, to wood flooring that goes all the way around the loop. So you've exited the stairs, gotten off the stairs right there. You walk across here. pointing now is a doorway, an opening into what is now the stage area, the fireplace. That is hallway, and that takes you straight to the bride's walk. It's a little easier now that we're sitting in here than when we were talking about in the Great Hall. So that loop goes from off here, you'll be able to see the light of the bride's walk straight ahead of you, so you know how to get to church. Top of the stairs, there's a powder room, restroom, so when you're standing, you're a newcomer or a young person who needs a bathroom break from church, straight down that same hallway to a restroom. Easy to find that way. Nursery, right there. Top of the stairs also. Drop your kids off. Top of the stairs, drop your kids off. Walk straight to church. After church, straight to the Sunday school classroom for children right here that I'm pointing at. So everything is central and everything is booming out of this space. Mural room, kitchen, outreach area beyond that, Sunday school classrooms, music suite where it has been, direction, bonus. Did you do that or did I magically do that here? Okay, good for me, thank you. Straight on into church. So here, let's look at the floors. We had a meeting on Friday starting to talk about some of the interior choices. One would be to have concrete floors, just stained. The other option that you see here is some kind of tile, a vinyl tile. Decision was made that that's what we're going to go with, some sort of flooring, not concrete. Big doorways that you're seeing there. Space that I'm pointing out right now for some sort of art piece, something representing us, Calvary, or what we're doing. Soft seating right up here. Is that 12 feet across probably? 15 feet across. So think about this area that I'm pointing right now. It's an overview into this area. Some chairs up there. As Yvette said, maybe a couple of cocktail tables. You take your coffee or sipping right there. Down the hallway. On one side is the Montgomery foyer, brought up to the same level as the Great Hall. That's a hard thing to conceptualize. Other side of that hallway from Montgomery foyer, 4 doorways into the Great Hall. The fireplace, the 1953-ish fireplace, never had anything burning in it because, well, there's not a chimney. The fireplace goes to the other side of the Great Hall, where it's going to remain non-wood burning. Maybe we'll stick a plant in it or something, but it will be there. Let's see, bless our hearth and home or whatever it says above that, that'll go too. If you poke your heads into the Great Hall today, I'm sorry, this is complete stream of consciousness, but I'm not nearly as well organized as Charles was. If you poke your head into the Great Hall, on the floor in there is all of the oak that was taken out of the fireplace area and out of the 2nd Street entrance area, all labeled, all bundled really nicely and sitting there. All of that gets reused also. So harkening back to Harriet's term, the patina is going to stay throughout the whole experience. Great Hall. Also today, as you're going into church from this direction, not from the bell tower, look in the library. In the library right now, straight ahead of you, you'll see one of the brick pilasters from the original church building. It's been covered up for years, but it's right there, and that will probably stay in the next or in this renovation of the library. By that pilaster is a little doorway that takes you right to the organ door. Again, hard to verbalize right now, but when you're looking at the library, I think there's a stanchion in front of it, but poke your head over the stanchion and you'll see a little bit how that entranceway will begin and start gauging your progress that way, gauging our progress. Behind us for orientation, straight back there, Terry, wave at us. You see those windows right behind Terry. Those will be doorways onto the courtyard. All of that is open. This atrium is open straight out to those doorways on the courtyard. Charles mentioned the new chapel and multi-purpose space. That's all the area that I'm pointing right now here on the first floor. Natural light into the courtyard, probably reusing the font and the lectern that are presently in the Bethlehem Chapel. Those nice limestone pieces from the 70s, they'll be part of that room, as well as the Dorothy Stern windows that Charles mentioned. On the other side of Terry, behind the screens, and I'm going to talk about those in a minute, the other side is all the staff office area. So everybody from fourth floor, Richard's office, new space for Monica in there, everyone will have their space within the office suite, as well as a big copy room, work room, and plenty of kind of gathering space for them in the middle of it. That opens very close to the alley door, also the primary entrance, big and wide. So all of the staff members will be right there where most people enter the building. Function of use, I think, will be much higher, and they won't feel so cordoned off. More a part of what we do every day down here. The screens. Oh, the screens. Charles said we took them out or something on your phrase earlier. You know, the two of the screens went back against the walls in the church, saved in there. These two, more than likely, will be part of this atrium space, right where I'm pointing right now, making that wall. So again, part of our history comes into this space. You'll see mural room images. You'll see some of the screens from the church. You'll see natural light. And hopefully our visitors and all of us will be in this room and know exactly where to go from here really easily. So with all that, questions? More of my ramblings like go on, Patty? Elevator is where it is. But envision a beautiful elevator that doesn't have all the clinks and stops and hits and knocks that we're hearing right now. The space won't be much larger, but it will be smoother and cleaner and a little bit bigger finish-wise, sleeker.
The stained glass windows in the library
Remain.
They just stay.
The library, known in the plans as the passageway now. That space will continue to have the library shelves in there and books on those. The windows stay the same. There's a door there now that goes out of the courtyard. That's going to be filled in, or bookshelves in that. That space, coming and going into the church, also the entrance point to the handicap ramp, the ramp starts in that library or passage space. It will probably also have some kind of large table for programs, handouts for church, and a little bit of soft seating, but not as much soft seating as it has had presently. The soft seating, or that sort of pre-function usage before a wedding, before a baptism, before a funeral, before families might gather, that will be the Montgomery foyer. A couple of big sofas in there, probably the two Vita Reed paintings that are here by the back door, going to the Montgomery foyer, the nice, kind of our fancy room, our parlor room.
Is it still going to be called Bride's Walk? Because that's kind of gender specific. Not all weddings have a bride.
What are we bandying? A bunch of terms have been bandied about for that space also. It functions as our narthex, essentially. The ramp from 2nd Street enters into that enlarged Bride's Walk. I didn't talk about that. That is now, 60 inches wide, 5 feet wide. Picture that as 12 feet wide in most of it. There are a few little architectural jigs and jogs. But it'll have a table. It'll be probably where more ushers will hang out programs beforehand. But it's the joiner. When we first started talking about this, there was the thought that we were going to knock through the bell tower. The engineers wisely told us that was probably not a good idea. We wanted to keep the bell tower standing. So we're not doing that. The swing door there from the Bride's Walk into the nave will be the most used or the used door. But there's lots more gathering space ahead of time. Christine? Not the alley, the doors, the east doors on the church stay the same. They need a name also at the same time. We own the alley, right? I think most of you know that. We got that from the city. It is now our space. It's been blocked off presently. The exterior space we're not doing much work on because that will be in another phase of project. Those will still be the primary entrance doors off the parking area. Yes. Doors down here that will be open on Sundays. We don't see those being used very often as entrance point doors. Instead, they'll just go out toward the green space for usage when the church is being used. But on a daily security basis, those will be locked most of the time. So it's this door and the bell tower door, as we are right now. And probably, I think we're probably going to be using less the 2nd Street entrance. I imagine more of that will go through the ramp door on a Sunday service than the 2nd Street door. Everybody know what I mean by the 2nd Street door outside the Montgomery parlor with the stairs down to the basement? The stairs remain for exit purposes, but it won't be a very used space, darker space. Tim?
And everything's still on schedule to be done by
By the end of January. On schedule, on budget, right now. Yeah, that's it. Right, Margaret? Just on. We were working, well, we changed contractors, as you probably know also, and that's been a great experience, I think, for all of us. I'm going to shout out to the team members right now. Richard Hendricks is down here every day and working very closely with our supervisor, Brett. Brett can already, from Montgomery Martin, he can tell you about every nook and cranny in the space and how everything is operating and will operate. Very hands-on. Richard's very hands-on. As you know, our rector is very hands-on in all this project also. David Bowling joined the team earlier. David's here every several days a week for meetings with the contractors. I talked about the interiors group meeting the other day. Shout out some of those names. Margaret Gardner, Charles Shipp, Ray Crenshaw, Yvette, Steve, Scott, and me. So those are your people to talk to now. If you've got a favorite color, which is not purple, tell them what you're see. It's going to be a blank slate, so we're going to have to bring colors in a lot of places still to get some more character going. So look forward to some of that, some of those changes and thoughts. The other part of the team, I'm going to hark back to Richard again. Richard's the one who got everything moved out of this place. Remember, we haven't done anything. Sure, we built this building in 92 or opened it in 92, but we didn't move out of that space. So all the stuff from that remained in this building that I'm pointing out right now. This has been 30 whatever years in this building. It's remained unclean. So it was a good time to clean out. We took over 9th floor at one of Henry Grosner's buildings. That floor apparently is packed. And Henry said we may have exceeded our weight limit. I haven't told Richard yet this, but there's some thought that we probably took too much over there that we'll go into the garage sale at another location before we move back in here. So save your pennies. If you need a couple of worn out sofas or some old chairs, we got them for you. What else? Patina. Patina, for you and your home. Anything else? Anybody? Kitchen. You saw the last renovation was 1955, and it looks like it, right? Margaret Craddock, I didn't thank her earlier, has led up that. Mary, you want to come grab the microphone and talk about what we're doing in there? So the big points, put yourselves in the hallway with the kitchen on one side of you and the mural room entrance on the other side. Both of those entrances are widened. So the entrance point into the mural from the kitchen chute is bigger, wider. The entrance into the kitchen itself, the dessert room, is significantly wider. The ceiling is brought up a little bit in that space. There's a serving bar further to your left as you enter into the dessert room. Straight ahead of you, wider opening into the kitchen itself. And within the kitchen, almost everything is gone. How many refrigerators back in there? 42 refrigerators, single standard, 42 refrigerators. Some of those moved to the 9th floor over at Henry's building. Some of those went by the wayside already. But we're going to have a walk-in cooler and walk-in freezer. How about that? Yeah. The dish room, presently the dish room is moving to the other side of the kitchen area. The room presently known as the dish room becomes a beverage area. So you won't have to move your cart with your coffee or your tea somewhere else. Be able to go in there and load up on your caffeine or your water, but not your sodas. Soda free. What else? New countertops, new storage area. Mary's got a little sort of small workspace in there. Lovely new mop sink in there, further out of the way. Beautiful stainless steel materials. Same windows, but not the refrigerators beside the windows, so that'll be a more open wall in this iteration. The entrance ramp from the alley service door remains. The stairs will be redone. Has anybody looked at those stairs in the kitchen? Has anybody seen the peeling paint in the kitchen? Did anybody ever look at the ceiling in there? All new, all new. The only thing that remains in there, aside from the stove and the vent system, is the floors. And those floors, I guess, were done sometime in the 90s. Heavy-duty tile floor. So there, did that answer enough? And the food is going to be even better. And it's going to be easier to handle waffle shop out of there in a cleaner, more systematic way. Jan?
Question for Papa Charles. Who built the parish house? Did the church build it, or was it a building that existed?
The parish house was built by the church. It was designed. The architects for the parish house were the Office of Walk Jones, which has gone through a lot of different, in fact, one of their iterations designed this building. But it was done in 1900. It was built for Calvary with the design input into what went into it.
EJ and GR are the ones who did this building in 92, and Daniel Cole Reeves built it. But look how flexible it is. We just got the concrete columns that are holding all this space up, concrete floor, concrete second floor, completely adaptable and flexible. And that's made all of this opening up possible. So we're living into our buildings. Again, in this whole undertaking, our $8 million project, we're building no more additional space, but using our spaces that much better. So, thanks everybody. Barney?
So showing this as a gathering place, and the staff's over there, so where's the coffee bar?
This room that I didn't talk about, to my right now, is conference room. There's a countertop going all the way across that. Coffee pitchers and service area is a possibility for there. So is a table set up right here. So is a table set up in the mural room. So is coffee up here. There's another similar little bar area right outside the music room suite that will function as that same efforts for second floor. Little refrigerator up there. Totally flexible. On a beautiful day like today, I mean, maybe it would be outside in the green space. So again, using all of our areas more than we ever have before is completely the hope. And you may have walked in and peeked into the bathrooms. Dalton, wave your hand right back there, standing right by the men's room and Mary. They're double the size of what they were before. Calvary Place had large restrooms, so those are going to be a whole lot nicer and cleaner. Likewise, outside the great hall, you know how those doors into the restrooms open in the hallway, and you have to be sure that you weren't going to knock somebody out of the way. We fixed that too. They will open from inside a little alcove area, so you'll be able to bust that door wide open and put your bags in. What else? What did we forget?
Well, while we're at Maslow's, at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the other thing to say about the restrooms is that they'll stay online throughout until these are ready. So people have been wondering all along, how are we going to go to the bathroom when we come to church. So very practical.
They're not on.
They're not online. It's not online, as it were. Yeah.
Is there storage space?
Yeah, there's great storage space. So, and there's smart storage space. So, for instance, behind these walls is storage space where we can very close to the chapel and this room have chairs and tables. The west end of the current gospel room, there's a chunk in that that's going to be storage for tables and chairs to service immediately to those two rooms. Front parlor, since there's now going to be the David Lusk fireplace installed there, kind of protruding into that parlor. It's not going to be a parlor, it's going to be storage for the rooms adjacent to it. So the great hall tables and chairs will be right there. They can go straight into there, rather than the place where we have chairs between the restrooms right now is going to be the little inset, so the doors don't lock yet, as David was talking about.
So,
Go ahead. Yeah. Oh, the chapel be used? Oh, I'm sorry that Catherine's on vacation right now because she's giddy about all of the possibilities for use for the chapel. It'll be one of those spaces that, we've had a 6 o'clock service, 5 and 6 o'clock service that we've gone back and forth from this room to the church. We're pausing it for now, but alternative services, we've been excited to have a different kind of space. We have a hard time in the current configuration having anything for 25 people. We're either in the Great Hall where it's very difficult to hear because it's too big a room, or Emerson room where we're packed shoulder to shoulder. So now we have several spaces whether it's a worship service. I think the forum will probably be there on Sunday, we think. So the 9:15 forum will be in a room that also is made for worship. We could push the chairs back and have the labyrinth could go out in there. We could see weekday services happening in there. So that's one of the most evocative spaces, and the fact that it's connected visually to downtown instead of buried so far back adds to it. We can look outside and see where we are from there. Morning, yeah.
so what happens to the current space, the old rector's office?
Oh, so the old rector's office, I'm not going to say it. So the problem with the space is that it's just not feasible to make it accessible. So the space is always going to have to function in some way that we know that people who are going up there can get there. Currently, it's been the archives. Archives are moved out. There's some structure that's going to go into that room to hold up the floor or the ceiling of the expanded Montgomery foyer room. So it'll be a little bit smaller due to that, but it'll still be plenty of space. I have a hunch archives will grab a room on the 4th floor so that somebody, even who's working with archives with mobility issues, can take the elevator up. So that's going to be storage of things that we can take up and down. Or it could be, there have been small groups, but the group that meets there has to be a closed group that knows that someone's not going to come to that meeting hoping to get in who can't. So it's a very small subset of kind of activities that can happen there. One more?
What's going to happen to the Great Hall if this is a gathering area and that's the new forum space?
I think the Great Hall is going to remain, I think, flowing out of the church for receptions. When we flow out of the church for a reception, it'll be right there. The party after the vigil, the gathering after a funeral, and this is still going to be kind of crossroads. I might describe this as crossroads as much as the main gathering where people are coming and going. So the things that we would like to place at a crossroads and have coffee and a reception, that's still going to be closest to the church in our formal space. It can still be set up as a lecture. If it's the type of size event that's conducive to that, for a grander setting. It'll work very much in conjunction with the church space. Yeah.
Richard is now here, and I don't believe he was here before when we applauded him.
Okay. Thanks. One more thanks for the people, to David, to Charles, to Margaret, to all of Richard, to everybody. really actually still, it feels like we're uncovering what was already here. Even in this, like something was present that's being uncovered for this new usage, and I think we're getting where we were meant to be all along. It just took a turn and a pandemic or two to get there. All right, go in peace, y'all. We'll see you soon.